bringing you coverage you can count on. This is CBS 19 News, Sunday morning.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I'm Risa Morris. Field is off this morning. Let's head over to meteorologist Albert Bruin with a first look at your Sunday weather. Albert, will we see some beautiful spring weather soon?
I think so. I think soon enough, at least this afternoon. But before we get there, we have to go through the fog. We've got fog, dense fog here in Tyler. Not everybody has got the kind of fog that we have, but you can see our live cam. This is looking south on Broadway. In very dense fog across the area. I wouldn't be a bit surprised to see a dense fog advisory put out by the National Weather Service for this, because this is very dense, especially in certain areas. And of course, Tyler is one of those. 55 degrees. You can see the relative humidity very, very high, light northwest wind. Let's take a look at that day planner forecast for you. And you will notice temperatures in the mid 50s, but this afternoon we should see partly cloudy skies. That's going to warm things up to about 67, 68 degrees. That's going to be nice after all these clouds and the wet conditions. I've got much more weather coming up in just a few minutes.
Happening now, Tyler police officers are investigating an armed robbery. Officers say 2 people robbed the Valero gas station on the west-southwest loop in Tyler late last night. One of the suspects pointed a semi-automatic pistol at the clerk, while the other took money out of the cash register. Both suspects left on foot, and if you know anything about this case, call police. One man is on the run after allegedly shooting another man in Jacksonville. Police say it happened around 5:45 yesterday afternoon on County Road 3306 in Cherokee County. Officers are looking for 44-year-old Jose Sandoval, who they say fled the scene with a woman and 2 teenage boys. He was last seen driving a red 1996 Dodge pickup truck with Texas license plate CXH 4507. The victim was taken to a Tyler hospital for surgery, but was alert and speaking to a deputy on the scene. If you know anything about Sandoval's whereabouts, let police know. And hundreds gathered this weekend to remember one of the biggest tragedies in American history that happened right here in East Texas. Nearly 300 people died in 1937 when a gas explosion wiped out the New London School. CBS 19's Destiny McKeever reports on the memorial service.
The names of hundreds are called.
The real tragedy would be if we forgot that approximately 300 people died at this location on March 18, 1937.
Judge Ed Emmett opens a ceremony at the New London School remembering the tragic day that changed his community.
I grew up in New London, was born in 1949, and the story of the explosion, the tragedy, the death, the sorrow, and the heroism all is part of my culture.
Today, students of West Ruck reenact that day that ended in nearly 300 deaths after a gas explosion destroyed the New London School. After years of silence, ex-students host an annual ceremony remembering the day.
It was a very, very long time between the explosion and a recognition of that. And the reason for that, people just didn't want to talk about it.
But after the very first class reunion in 1977, many survivors told their stories for the very first time.
I was in the 7th grade in a math class when the building blew up.
Mary Lou Taylor reflects on the day.
When I could, I got up from there and went to where the windows were, and of course the windows were gone.
Although many others attending today's memorial weren't survivors of the explosion, but instead generations of a rich history.
My father helped dig people out, recover bodies, rescue people. What's most important is for people to never forget what happened here.
And if you're interested in learning more about the explosion, there's a museum across the street from the school. It opened back in 1998 and displays some personal stories from the last living survivors. CBS 19 safety alert now. Bear Creek Smokehouse in Marshall is recalling about 3,700 pounds of beef products due to misbranding and an undeclared allergen. The products contain soy, a known allergen which is not declared on the product label. The beef was produced between November 22, 2013 and January 21st of this year. The recall includes 1-pound plastic containers of Beasley Smokehouse chopped barbecue beef with sauce with the establishment number 7226 inside of the USDA mark of inspection. We have all that information on our website for you. Just head over to cbs19.tv. And dozens may have been killed after a tropical cyclone, the equivalent of a Category 5 hurricane, hit the island nation of Vanuatu in the South Pacific. The storm is one of the most powerful to ever make landfall in the region. It packed 166-mile-per-hour winds, and UNICEF says at least half of the country's population, 133,000 people, have been affected. CBS's Seth Doan has the story.
Residents tried to salvage what they could in the capital city of Port Vila. Many rode out the storm in emergency shelters. Cyclone Pam lashed this chain of islands in the South Pacific with nearly 170-mile-per-hour winds. Early reports suggest entire villages may have been destroyed. Alice Clements with UNICEF described the ferocious storm.
It felt like the world was coming to an end. The winds were incredibly strong, uplifting roofs, destroying community infrastructure like hospitals and schools, obviously affecting housing and we suspect causing significant casualties as well.
Vanuatu's population of 267,000 is spread over 65 islands. It was the location of CBS's Survivor in 2004. Communication is down, so many of the islands are cut off, making damage estimates and death tolls hard to determine. But the UN says 90% of homes in the capital may have been damaged. Vanuatu's president was at a UN disaster planning conference in Japan.
I'm speaking with you today with a heart that is so heavy. I stand to appeal on behalf of the government and people of Vanuatu to the global community to give a lending hand in responding to these very current calamities.
Aid groups say the priority is getting residents food, water, and shelter. The death toll is expected to rise as communication is restored with outlying islands. Seth Doan, CBS News, Beijing.
Today, emergency aid teams are heading to Vanuatu. A group from Australia is leading the international response. And Republicans are casting a wider net in their investigation of Hillary Clinton's use of a private email address during her time as Secretary of State. Indiana Representative Susan Brooks is calling for Clinton to pass on the actual email server that hosted her private address rather than just copies of the relevant emails. The House Select Committee issued a subpoena for Clinton's emails last week after it was discovered she was using a personal email address during her time in office. And Bluebell is recalling some products because of a listeria outbreak. Plus, another man involved in the PT Cole Park murder case is going to plead guilty. That's coming up next on KYTX CBS 19. A health alert now. 3 people have died after eating ice cream tainted with listeria. The Texas company that made the product has recalled it, but health officials warn more people could get sick. CBS's Mark Albert has more.
5 people at this hospital in Wichita, Kansas became infected with listeria over the past year. At least 4 of them ate ice cream served by the hospital. The 3 people who died were all older adults. The ice cream was made at this Bluebell Creamery plant in Brenham, Texas. The CDC says the machine that made these 10 products caused the outbreak. Bluebell CEO Paul Kruse tells CBS News the company removed all the tainted product from stores and food service customers last month.
Absolutely. No question we would apologize.
Bluebell is responsible for this listeria?
No question.
Listeria symptoms include fever, muscle aches, diarrhea, and vomiting. Kansas Department of Health spokesperson Sarah Belfry warns there could be more cases.
Symptoms can appear 3 to 70 days after consuming this bacteria, and we continue to monitor the situation.
Listeria kills an average 260 people a year in the U.S. and sickens 1,600 according to the CDC. The largest nationwide listeria outbreak was in 2011 when 33 people died from tainted cantaloupe.
It was just tragic. I still think about him.
Paul Schwarz's father, Paul, a World War II veteran, was one of them.
We shouldn't have to take a bite of cantaloupe or ice cream and possibly get sick and die. It's just unconscionable that this happens.
If you have any of those recalled items in your freezer, you should throw them out. Bluebell ice cream cups, pints, or half gallons are not affected. And for another look of that list, head to cbs19.tv and click on the hot button. Looking ahead, a new Tyler police substation is on the way, and that could lead to faster response times. Construction crews will break ground on the South Side substation on Monday. A ceremony will be held at 1 p.m. It's located right across from Faulkner Park, and all departments will have officers at the new substation. Another man involved in the P.T. Cole Park murder case is set to enter a plea Monday morning. The Smith County District Attorney's Office confirms Rakeem Goldstein will plead guilty to murder for his part in the 2013 shooting death of Breonna Young. Goldstein's guilty plea is in exchange for 20 years in prison. And to see stories from any of our newscasts, log on to cbs19.tv. You can comment on any story posted on our website, and you can take the conversation to Facebook. Just search KYTX CBS 19 and make sure you click that like button while you're there. We'd love to hear from you. And meteorologist Albert Brun has your forecast right after the break. Stay with us. You're watching CBS 19 Sunday Morning. Coverage you can count on.